Good afternoon, everyone. I believe some of you may have viewed and listened to the video recording of the slides that has been shared with you last night. If it is not, never mind. It's please take it this way that what I'm going to present now is going to be a brief version of what is in the recorded video, and please run through that after this lecture. My advice is this. After this, Prof. Wong has mentioned that he asked me to inform everyone that the subsequent assignment number 2 and assignment number 3, he will give the descriptions on the questions as well on Tuesday, and not to worry about it for the time being. So my advice is this: go through this. After going through the slides of our lecture now on lecture 9 and lecture 10, likewise on others, if you decide to pick up some questions to answer for assignment 2 and assignment 3, look out for the recording of like this topic today, for example, if it's related, or the full slide recording in your e-learn system. And the questions from me usually will say, do not use AI or do not copy. In other words, do not plagiarize. Yeah, that's very important, do not plagiarize. But let me tell you something. They pick up this topic or whatever it is, before you start answering the question, pick up the ideas, go into ChatGPT or something like that, type the keywords or whatever that you want and learn from there first. From there, jot down what are the key points. From the key points, drop ChatGPT completely, do not copy paste. Move on into searching for information about what the ChatGPT gave you, the key points. Explore further, learn, download, or whatever it is from articles, journal articles, etc., or books. Then familiarize yourself with all those things before you start writing your assignments. That will give you better results, better outcome, rather than straight away embarking on looking at the questions and starting to answer. Then you start picking up here and there. It's not going to help that much. It won't be as interesting. Okay, that's a small advice. Let me continue. Today I have almost 2 hours. If you allow me, we can run through quickly. There's about 40 or 42 slides to summarizes the contents of lecture 9 and lecture 10. What you see now is on lecture 9, Civil Society, Businesses and the Media in SDGs. Let me continue. If you look at what we have here now is a depiction of what the world has planned by 2050. And in 2050, the world wants to be this way. So you have digital revolution, smart cities, food, biosphere, and water. On the right-hand side, you have human capacity, demography, and health, consumption and production. And while we do this, we also have to look into protecting the environment by decarbonization. There's a lot of effort being done in many countries to reduce the release of carbon that damages the world, okay, or the environment. Now, all this, we may be very aware of what is in the digital world that we live in, but there's going to be a digital revolution. We are already revolutionized by AI by now. People used to talk about big data, nanotech, and all that, but those are key, less, they are still important, but the keyword now is all about AI, smart cities, and we are talking about provision of housing, mobility, movements, infrastructure, reduction of pollution, and etc. All using smart concepts. Yeah, and then we have food, water, biosphere, and so on. The protection, the need to protect forests, oceans, uh, and so on. Yeah, and if you look at on the right hand side, human capacity, demography, health, societies become older by the day, by the year, kind of stuff. There's at the national Malaysian level, we have more people who are we call it warga emas. Among those who are aged 60 and above, but at the international level, the standard is 65 years old and above. And even the total population of the when the distribution of the uh, people who are more than 65 years old is more than 14.7%. That society is then called an aged society. When you say it's aged society, that means that the national government has to look into the various policies to support the population. 14 point, or let's put it as 15% of the population requires attention, especially for the aged people who need to walk without any what do you call, any difficulties. The provision of support services in health services, for example, there will be more beds required to take care of them health-wise. They are the ones who will be going through difficulties in health, maintaining health and kind of stuff. Yeah. So also when talk about that, they need recreational facilities. They are also ones who will require. Those days we used to call it old folks homes. Nowadays we call it care centers, either by the private sector or by the public sector themselves, and so on. Now, consumption and production, on the other hand, we are talking about resource use, sufficient, all those things. And I think when you talk about consumption and production, the war between Russia and Ukraine has already, what do you call, caused a jerk in the whole world in terms of supply of food, right? Let me just give me a short break. Okay. Both countries went into war, well, for whatever reason, but because Ukraine is a major producer of wheat, for example, it has affected the production of wheat all over the world and causing a shortage. And at that point of time, when it comes to economic terms, when you have a shortage in the product, the price will go up, therefore causing what do you call, a chain reaction in terms of what do you call, in the rise in price. In other words, a better word for that is inflation. And decarbonization, we have all countries have now agreed most countries have agreed to reduce their what do you call, emission of carbon into the environment. For example, many have embarked on the use of LED in the street lights and many other things. And apart from that, governments have already encouraged the people to its own citizens to replace old menthols into using those bulbs that are LED based. Yeah. So these are just examples of what we have already in place, and we are targeting much better things by the year 2050. All right. Now I move on straight into something according to this topic. Civil society, according to World Bank, means community groups, NGOs, labor unions, indigenous groups, charitable organizations, faith-based organizations, professional associations, including academia, the academia and the foundations here. And the UNDP gave another view, slightly different. It's an ecosystem that influences social change outside of the family, or sometimes outside the market or even government. When it comes to outside the government, it simply means at the international level. Now, therefore, we are talking about um, people who are volunteers. They are members of certain NGOs, for example, private donors or activists. And in terms of funding, they are either individuals, corporate bodies, foundations, grants, including by government. Then we have legal framework. These are all enforced by, empowered by the legal support system that enables NGOs and non-profits to give them special status to operate. And then as all this comes with support with technology of current days, social media plays a very important role along that line. Where people can now disseminate information or share their views or protest or support for certain things over time. Now, civil society are not associated with government, all right? Now, that means that they can be, as long as they are not associated with the government, schools and universities, advocacy groups, professional associations, places of worship, businesses, industries, and all trade worksmen and academicians, they are the ones that we can be categorized as civil society. Now, question about that arises is, where would people go when they need help? All right, especially the whole world learned in its own way when the COVID-19 pandemic took place, when the public had required some assistance. People were not able to leave their house due to lockdowns, and they had to serve their family. There's perhaps no income, no food. So in Malaysia, for example, this thing really attracted the attention of everyone, where they had some people raised white cloths on certain floors, and they placed it outside on their roof to attract attention that they are in serious trouble, they need attention. This simply means that the public and the society could jump in quickly to settle certain immediate emergency issues, while they could wait for officials or politicians to step in to provide the assistance. Okay, so civil society fills the gap where government cannot fill in. But the question arises whether why can't the government be the one that we appoint, be it under we call it democracy and all that, we appointed, we chose them and we put them in place, and but then eventually there are some pockets of people who are neglected. Whether this is fair, that the governments couldn't serve everything, but the others have to come in to step in. The public has to come in to assist the needy. Since we have the saying that government of the people, for the people, by the people, but do we feel neglected, or do the affected people feel neglected? And the question arises: can we say then that governments have failed in this respect if there is a vacuum of inefficiencies, that some in the society could have been neglected, some could have been meaning not given due attention, or they're left out in the process of development and so on. So you need to use norms, laws and policies in order to shape representation, accountability, and legitimacy of the actions taken. Example that I would like to use is social impact assessment. I'm a member of Malaysian Association of Social Impact Assessment, so I tend to use this. And we can get a lot of information from msiamy.org. We are not member of the International Association for Impact Assessment, but we take part in their activities. All right. And this one is only for social impact assessment. There's also for environmental impact assessment, traffic impact assessment, and many other impact assessment stations. And under the IAIA that you can see on the screen now, they cover on a wider scope. But the one we are talking about, I'm going to talk about now, is only about MSIA, which is Malaysian Association of Social Impact Assessment. I'm also one of the consultants here. And how does it influence policy formulation? One is to provide free public talks to the public. Two, consultation. Consultants have to engage various stakeholders. Let's say a developer has identified decided that his or her large piece of land have to be developed into, say, residential properties or commercial or industrial or whatever it is. Then consultants for a social impact assessment like EIA have to be appointed. I'll come to you, Aisha, shortly, yeah, when I finish this, yeah. Then we have to engage, we have to go out and find out, identify the place, who are those located in the surrounding areas and kind of stuff, and make plans as to how we're going to carry out this study. Okay. Then we have at number 4 here, MSIA also works out with state governments to garner support to ensure that state governments adopt and implement the need for SIA in large physical development projects in the peninsula itself. Kedah and Johor does not adopt the need for SIA. All right, that is in the peninsula itself. Yes, Aisha, please. How can I help you?
Okay,
No, oh, sorry.
Hi, there's two Aishas here.
Yes, I understand there's two Aishas.
I thought it's me. Sorry, Aisha.
That's all right. Hi, Prof. How are you?
Hi.
I was going to ask with regards to SIA because I did a little bit of reading into SIA and the organization, and I understand. I just wanted to find out: is it true that we only have about 50 something odd registered SIA professionals in the country? That's my first question.
Okay.
My second question is.
Can I answer that first?
Sure.
We have not 50 plus, we have more than 300.
Okay, because
Yes.
yeah, maybe I can send you what I read and then yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So more than 300. Okay, so a follow-up question to that. Are all these 300 odd practitioners, are they from the environment background, or are they I would say, very focused on as in social?
Okay. Their background can comprise people who are town planners. There are also people who are environmentalists and sociologists, socioeconomists, usually the non-sciences.
What sciences, sorry?
Non, N-O-N.
Okay. So human sciences.
Yes, human sciences.
Okay.
Because usually this involves human beings and social aspects of the human being. So it focuses on non-sciences, but we still also have people who are already practitioners. So we accept them also, some of them who are from the pure sciences. Reason being, EIA is not part of us. Environment impact assessment, they have got their own settings. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, so thank you for explaining that. So the reason I asked is because my understanding, or I would say my observation, is that when we carry out Isha, right, or also, usually the S is always underwhelming, because those who are preparing the reports or even going out to do the questions and the research and etc. are mainly environmental background. So the S, the social part of it always gets underplayed, and then you have a lot of issues, right? The latest one being the the Kampong Baru, and also the other one, the WCE, right? The West Coast Expressway, whereby, yeah. So that's the reason I asked. Yeah. So your opinion, Prof, since you're part of the organization.
Okay, part of the association. Okay. When developers or government as the project proponent appoint us, of course, they will do the request for quotations and all that. Once we are appointed, let's say, whichever, all members stand the same chance to be selected. Some studies, okay, some study. I mean, when it comes to SIA, it is not a one-man show. It is normally a team, depending on the type of project. So if it's a very much environmental type of project, so it's good to have people who are from the environment basis. Whereas usually in SIA, in Malaysia especially, many of these teams are very much inclined to town planners, and they also the team will also incorporate socioeconomists, sociologists. Sometimes, if it's going to affect, for example, when the high-speed rail study was implemented, then it was of course it was halted after that a couple of times. They also need to bring in the real estate consultants in and many other different aspects depending on the kind of project. So specialists have to be brought in. So it is not completely real that true. It's not completely true that these studies are very much based on environmentalists. Things have changed, but there's always a setback of recent times. Uh, a consultant normally being appointed, for example, by a large for a large project, normally they will appoint EIA team, and later they will also require SIA, social impact assessment, and these people, as long as they are registered with MSIA, for example, they can also conduct the SIA
Right.
study. So at times there is a setback. Yeah, there's a setback in the sense that the reports are two different reports. EIA goes to Department of Environment. SIA is presented to the Town and Country Planning Department. There are two different agencies, but presented by same company. The SIA will be very much inclined to environmental as well.
That's right.
So far, there's not much of conditions set by Plan Malaysia that you are EIA consultants, you cannot do SIA. I have been proposing that, but slowly and over time, nothing wrong about that. But the report for SIA will be very smells very much on EIA, environmental, rather than social so much.
Yeah. So my observation correct lah, Prof.
What is that?
Which is, the social always underwhelming in with regards to, when they do Isha, the S is always underwhelming.
Okay, all right. Out of the 10 studies, for example, only one perhaps is by environmental
Yeah.
consultants. So when they do, this is the outcome. but we have the remaining 9 that is done properly by the others, the people in the other fields.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's the
Thanks.
yes. You're welcome. The other Aisha got any questions?
I don't have, Prof.
Okay. All right. Let me continue. Yeah. All right. So in the recent times, if you look at the bullet number 4, MSIA has embarked on also discussing this matter about the need to adopt SIA for development studies in Sabah and Sarawak as well. In Sabah and Sarawak, they have SIA, but on a smaller scale, very much as part and parcel of EIA, but they do that more for plantation and forestry aspects only. Yeah. So this is how MSIA has been working on. And this is one example of where I was involved as one of the team members. Existing, there is a causeway that people travel by train across short distance, about 4 kilometers or so, between Johor Bahru and Singapore, and also the others by the public transportation, by bus or by private vehicles across the causeway. And this has been, there's causing a lot of traffic congestions both ways across the Johor Causeway. So both governments have already decided that we need to change this method, and therefore we studied this during the just before COVID-19 started. This is the yellow line showing that new alignment that's going for LRT, light rail transit system, from JB, Johor Bahru, from station here, and its depot where they're going to be repairing or servicing their what do you call the carriages. And this is elevated structure and goes across here until here, and from here the Singapore side builds it, and I think it's going to be launched very soon, in 1 year or so. Okay, when we did this, we had real estate agent, consultant. We had also sociologists and a few town planners in the team. I'm a socio-economist. My field is very much into public administration. And when we engage, this is one group. If you go through the recording, I spoke even longer. This is Kim Teng Park. There's this some proper housing here, and there's what do you call a slum area here, and commercial hotels, and all these are commercial. There are also places of worship here. All these were groups of people whom we engaged before we could finalize on this alignment. And the people here, this is a group of people with about 20 something units of houses have been staying there illegally. They have to be relocated in the name of acquisition, because this acquired so much of land. But there's one main road here, and separating this area and this part, the objection came in from here. It's an old age society, one of the earliest settlements here, proper housing, and many of them are old citizens, and they protested against this, because this project, when we came in, we thought we are the first one to go in, but the whole idea has already happened at least 2 times before and never took place. And when we went in there for the first time, there's such thing called social impact assessment were done. So we received the brunt of their anger, and they didn't want this to take place, and they were of the view that part of their taman of their this housing park will be taken away, and from the previous 2 projects plans, and therefore they protested. Legal actions were taken against before this, and they were very strong in the media. And when we went in, we kept them as a last group to be engaged, because we sensed heat coming from here based on the different engagements we did here and there. They were already saying that people here are protesting. Okay, we kept them last, and when we met them last, it was one particular night after about 9 o'clock at night, 8:30 or something in the night, in a hotel nearby. And they came in. When we looked at them, they were looking at us like really very hostile, waiting to fight anytime. But after giving explanations and all that, we received the first ever best reception, in the sense that they gave us a what he calls standing ovation and claps in the whole room. So the whole thing turned the other way around, and we were overwhelmed by happiness. And when they realized that whatever they heard before were all wrong, and nobody will be moved out from this housing park, or no acquisition will be done here. And the project proponent, which is currently the MRT Corp, will do whatever necessary to assist them in the whole development process if they are affected. So this is one good example of how SIA has benefited us. And if we go on into this, is another industrial area where the red line here is a new land that was earmarked for industrial development. Now, this gray area here is shows river, and these are all pockets of proper housing. Industrial area over here were already operating. There were land mining, sand mining was going on here, and therefore it was already polluting the rivers. And this industrial area was already polluting the air with whatever they are from their production line, and that affected the health of people around here. And when we met them, it's a must, yeah. So if this is the area that we're going to do, normally in social impact assessment, we will cover at least 1 km away as the immediate zone of impact, and another 1 km or 1.5 or 2 km as the second radius around it as the indirect impact zone. Now, when we met them here, they were all very unhappy. Why? Because they're already facing this problem, and these problems that they are facing now has not been addressed. And there comes now new plan for another industrial site. As a result, they were of the view that their health and whatever the society, the welfare of the people around here, including down here, whom we studied also, these are all villages, they were all of the opinion that they're going to be badly affected. So we, SIA, had to, the team had to explain to them, each one of them, although it's going to be, was also partly hostile, we engaged and explained to them, including with the presence of the developer, to explain that this is going to be under contained. But what happens outside here and outside here is not within their help, because they are all different operators. And unfortunately, we at the SIA team had to face the brunt. And this is the plan. We look at light purple. Here is for light industries, medium scale industries, and heavy industries will be right inside the in the middle, so that this becomes the light industries becomes the buffer with the surrounding areas. And these are all with that we had about 26 engagements that we did in the year 2017 within the town span of about 2 months to do the study. And these are all the photographs, and this is the zone that I showed you just now. Immediate is 1 km. We call it zone of impact, and the next one we added another one. So when we engage with the people, groups, target groups. This is the religious groups. You see the same map over here being looked into by the people. This is myself, and This is another group, institutions, and so on. Now, this is when we meet them as representatives. But on the ground, we also conduct surveys because not everybody gets the opportunity to be here. So what we do, we carry out surveys with the individuals. Who are they? They are residents, they are business operators, they are industrialists, and so on, villages. We engage them through surveys, questionnaire surveys. We put them together, then we produce the report as to what can be done, what shouldn't be done, and kind of stuff. It's the same thing. This is just to indicate the different types of stakeholders involved in most of our studies. Yes, Aisha again. Aisha?
Sorry, I'm not very used to Zoom, so I don't know where to press to unmute. My apologies. Prof, I have a few questions. The first question is SIA mandatory in this country and also for which category of development? That's one. Number two, just now you mentioned, there's so many other developments and the communities have, facing the brunt all the time. So I guess that would be cumulative impact lah, right?
Yes. Yes.
And then the third question is the 1 kilometer that you mentioned and the 1.5 kilometer, is it a regulatory requirement on the kilometer, or is that something that is just best practice?
Okay, let me try to answer the first question first. Okay, you can get the different categories of development that are subjected to social impact assessment. You can get it by downloading. Even if you want, I can download. I can send you later. It's just a small piece of
Thanks.
document. You can download it also from Jabatan Perancang Bandar dan Desa in their website. Go under social impact assessment. It's called PPSI.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, I'll
Because
do
our
that.
time is limited, I can't go details. Not everything under development requires SIA. Sometimes it's decided by the type of project, and sometimes it's also how big is the project. For example, if it requires a population development that's going to bring in more than 2,000 residents, that means about 500 units of houses, you need to bring in one SIA, you need to do an SIA project. And if it's industries, yes, you have to do it. If it is in some places, it's a columbarium. Columbarium is where the non-Muslims, some of them, they cremate the body after the demise, and the ashes are put into a dish. They call it NICHE. Is a balang in Malay, and they put it into some compartments within a building, and it is managed and very, very peaceful kind of stuff. But that can be a sensitive issue to the surrounding people, especially if they are Muslims, because they might look at it as something that may not be conducive. And therefore, columbariums require if, let's say, somebody wants to offer columbarium services, you need to bill. So you need to get an SIA also done. And that's just two examples, three examples that I've given. Go through that. Number two, receiving the brunt is part and parcel of the social impact. It's not all the projects that we go through this kind of was hostile situations. Only some, because due to previous incidences in that same locations. But most of the studies that I'm involved, I've done many already. I think I only presented to you 2 or 3 that were a little hostile. But they are success stories. Yeah. The next slide show you some success stories. The third one you showed, you're referring to the zone of impact. Now, zone of impact is there's no mandatory. Unlike EIA, normally they'll go for 5 kilometer.
Correct.
radius. No, we don't do that because uh, environment is because if it's air pollution or noise or even the smell coming from certain things, industrial, it can go on even more than 10 kilometers. So there is a standard 5 kilometer radius they use. Whereas in social, we tend to look at case by case basis. If you look at this industrial area, why did we put it as 1 km? Because there were a significant number of roads within the 1 km. Yes, there were also residential areas, people residing there. There were also industrial activities within that. But if you look at the next 1 km radius, almost none except on the far left and down south. Down south, there's not much of impact because they were all villages surrounded by not much of connecting roads to the industrial area. Those who were affected were the ones on the far left, on the over here near Teluk Datuk. Okay, so sometimes when you draw bigger, you are actually drawing more people to be studied, but they might even look at it that, oh, your project site is over here, we are not going to be affected. So we carry out like this. We are very much, sometimes we only do 500 and another one is 1,000 meters. Why? Because we anticipate that the studies, the impact from the projects could be just within the shorter distance. And whatever they choose, 1 km or 1.5 or 2 or whatever it is, they consultants have to justify. It is not an automatic thing. Okay, yeah? Answer?
Okay.
All right, let me go on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, please intercept at any point of time. All right. And if I can go on, this is another one. We always talk about this. My own experience in being in the team, an active member. I mentioned before in my lecture 5 that water is also now under or the services that come under federal government is called Schedule 1. Schedule 2 is services that comes under services and the scope that comes under state government. And then when it comes to both shared, it's called concurrent. So water has become a concurrent function. So Malacca, this is in Malacca in the district of Jasin. Malacca often faces drought, kemarau, and Malacca being what you call a tourist destination, water shortage often affects the industry. As a result, then this problem was taken up by the state government with the federal government and Ministry of Environment and Water. Then, if I'm not wrong, the name could be different. They decided that we need to look out for sources, and there was a concept a few years, just recent years before this, that existing mining ponds can be dug up even deeper and use the plastic materials and then to fill it up with water. How do you fill it up with water? It's from the rains. Now, this is called off-river storage projects. Normally, these kind of projects are always along the rivers. Now, this is a better picture. If I can show you here, this is the one of the main rivers that goes through, comes to next to this area where the project is proposed. And what happens is the 3 different lakes is called Tasik Biru in Jasin. It's quite an active place, a beautiful place. And what the government wanted to do is then join these 3, dig up deeper into the ponds and move out all the existing soil, dump them over here. It's called stockpile here. All right. So that was the original idea of the government under the Ministry of Environment and Water then. That's how it is here. Our zone was every 1 km. All right, 1 km here, 1 to 3 km, it became wider, and then 3 to 5. when we did this, we realized that this is the boundary between Malacca. Malacca on the left, right is on what do you call the Johor. So the study, unfortunately, we had to engage extra into this area because this land here on the left into Malacca was slightly on the upper side, and this river, when it overflows, it often floods this is Tangkak side, yeah, on Tangkak and affects many people. But on top of that, when there's a rainy season like what we are going through now, the rivers always overflow and floods down south. Yeah. Now, when this idea was thrown in, the whole idea was to when you have this kind of when you dig it up deeper and store water. So during the heavy downpour, during monsoon, water will be fetched from the rivers, channeled from the rivers into these ponds until it fills up. And by doing so, it reduces the flooding potentials. One. Number two, when in the dry seasons, water from here will be channeled back into the river and into the what do you call water treatment plants so that it can be processed and channeled back into the what do you call into the pipes into the houses and all the users. So that's how it is. Now, what happened was this original idea of digging and dumping here into stockpile over here, and we went into this. We had about 20 or 30, almost 25 engagements, different target groups, different owners, and we had two meetings with landowners over here. We invited them. Many of them were durian orchard planters. Some planters are smallholders who planted oil palm, and many others here. So when we invited them, we learned something very shocking, that they said, we are on higher grounds. All the darker the red is, it shows higher ground. The greener it is, it shows lower ground. So this is a topographic map. So eventually we had to look for topography. And what they said was, we have already planted our trees and we are on hills already. You're going to dig up here and you're going to make our hill even more higher, taller. Does that make sense? And we were shocked. Of course, we were not prepared at that point of time. And we accepted that view and we said, okay, we have not decided anything. Let's look into this. And we brought this back to the government. And with that, we had a very strong basis for the government to redraw relook into the plan. Of course, it doesn't make sense to dig and dump here. So they looked into all can you see this? All the low-lying areas. And this became the focus here. So from this map, it became this one. So these are all the low-lying areas. Most of this land involved Malacca state land. Therefore, it was much more easier to deal with state government's land by acquiring. And from involving 66 units of land originally planned to be acquired, it was reduced to only 32 under the new plan. On top of that, many engagements with the people residing here. All the yellow lines here indicates the kampung roads and kind of stuff, yeah, nearby here as well. The villagers already said, whatever you all do, please do not use our road. Your heavy machinery shouldn't use our roads. And the government accepted the view under the ministry, yeah, they accepted the view and they decided that they will now build a road, a new road, and it will be directed along the north-south expressway, but they cannot go into the express highway. They go along here, and at one particular point further up here, either they go up or going down into the normal roads. So here it showed the involvement of various target groups managed to save a lot of land and a lot of cost as well to the government. Their land being saved, their durian plantation or whatever other plantations they had were reduced at least by half. All right. And therefore, this became a better solution. And the roads to be built temporary was, although temporary, it was able to avoid the disturbances to the residential areas. The pink dots indicate houses. All right. And if I can just go on, therefore, we can see that, I would like to focus on the whole idea about civil society is about monitoring government policies and actions. They also form as pressure groups, and they also become advocacy groups as well. Of course, there are many other things that I've gone through. If I can just go through very quickly, the whole idea is to facilitate open and voluntary participation and enable community stakeholders to hold economics and political actors accountable to policy decisions, provide a context for mutual benefit and exchange on whatever is being proposed, seek to promote the common good for inclusion of the marginalized group or minority groups in any studies or any development projects. And this goes along with the idea of the principles of participatory engagement. You must agree, you must follow constitutional, you must be guided by the constitution or the law, and developers must have the moral responsibility to take care of the welfare of those who are going to be affected. Now, this goes along with good governance principle that was proposed in 1997 by UNDP that talks about, this is called Pillars of Good Governance. You can type on the Google, you can have that done. It will give you this. One of it is fairness, next responsiveness, equity, everybody has got equal chance, accountability, participation, this is participation. What we have discussed is about participation, transparency, consensus oriented. What I've presented just now, we get to meet the groups representatives, and also by conduct of survey, and with that we find what is the consensus results about, they support, they don't support, and all that. At the end of say 8 to 10 pages of survey questions, we ask that kind of question that also provides us with some kind of consensus. And whether this whole idea is about effectiveness and strategic vision, this is something, but these two directly involve what I've already presented just now. If you look at, with that comes the involvement of NGOs. We notice that NGOs are important when the governments feel that the governments need them. But once their targets were achieved, normally NGOs feel that they are not so much important, and then the pressure to advocate again starts all over again. Therefore, it becomes a cyclical pattern in any activities involving NGOs. States are not the sole actor. Whatever I presented earlier, they are called civil society. But now we are going to talk about another term called non-state actors. Other than governments of the world, they are called non-state actors. They are individuals, organizations, groups that exert pressure in politics, society, academia, the international relations, etc. In many aspects, in terms of trade, finance, advocacy, they are all called non-state actors. Non-state actors represent stakeholders, and global partnership, this relates to global partnership between private and public bodies on specific issues. And it also relates to not-for-profit and for-profit organizations in carrying out this function as non-state actors. And when I started just now, we talked about globalization. It's a vast topic, and globalization itself is vast. And whatever happens across the world, also affects anything within the country, and it has got high impact on everybody, especially due to IT and technology, and we get to know about what happens things very fast. The last few days ago, we learned about the fire that killed many people in Hong Kong, and yesterday's state government election in Sabah. We were able to monitor on the spot by looking at our social media alone. All right, that's to me the dependence on people for news that comes after a few hours on our TV has already gone past. Most of us do not even listen to news in that sense. There's increase in the number of international organizations, the private and public sector. Now, we are talking about international organizations in the public and private sectors in the global governance, both from international level. Their branches can be operating within any particular country. That's what it means here. This helps solve problems and improve lives. And this involves NGOs, transnational corporations. We may have heard about Toyota. We may have heard about Mobil, Exxon, GEC, Royal Dutch, Shell, and so on. But behind the scene, they are very much into giving back to the society into programs that are very much into green programs. Yeah, you may want to look into this. When you look at Shell, for example, ExxonMobil is not so much about selling fuel alone, but they have other programs that supports the protection of the environment. There's also intergovernmental organizations, in short we call it IGOs, such as World Banks, United Nations, EU. Now, World Bank, for example, or United Nations, it comprises members from representatives of various countries sitting together, and they deliberate on certain topics and go through certain things, before they decide. And therefore, the question arises is, what's the difference between NGOs and IGOs? NGOs are basically established by individuals, either local or overseas, wherever, or overseas operating at local. IGOs, on the other hand, are established by governments, especially by means of treaties or agreements made together. And these are normally what global problems are, and this is where the IGOs tend to work on. As example, climate changes, terrorism, cyber threats, transnational crimes, and the pandemic. Well, COVID-19 pandemic itself taught the whole world a lesson never experienced long time before. When we had this, then was it the action of one country? Was it enough to manage, or it became an important aspect where every country have to put their hands together and ensure that there's no people moving between the borders of each country, and within the country itself, any country. We also have experienced that you cannot even during the lockdown, you cannot even come out cross here and there, cannot cross certain boundaries, and this is to contain the spread of the virus, as they said. And all this came from WHO, which we agreed, and also as the expert in that area. So when WHO said that everyone has to be vaccinated with this to fight against certain this COVID-19 and so on. Therefore, countries have to work faster. Governments had to agree or reject or whatever. Of course, they didn't have the time to reject, but decisions have to be done, and it became a quick public policy that was then propagated and implemented in every parts of the world, including in Malaysia. So then everybody, the government said everybody must go and get injected with so and so kind of stuff, yeah, and get this done. And after that, must be followed by the second one and the third one over time. Now, if we had gone through the earlier later diagram, we will see that there was no time for that. Yeah, I'll keep that for the later discussion. This leads to global governance. IGOs used to be norm. There is now a new architecture of global governance where partnership between different players and the government bodies in international working has become a norm. UN, for example, is one of the example where we can say it is both a state. Like we have one country where under the state, like in Malaysia, we had so many states, and each of the state is governed by different people, and put them together, they are governed at the federal level as a nation. Therefore, they work like that. And under UN, you have representatives of various countries sitting together. So they form like a situation like they are operating like a bigger state for the whole world. And when decisions made, and they are also into agreements to ensure that agreements are agreed on, and they become the force behind enforcing what you call non-compliance on countries that do not follow or adhere to certain rules that they have agreed upon. So why do you need IGOs in that sense, like UN? Basically, the second bullet explains that we need to go beyond the scope of the boundary of nations to govern a country, because things have we cannot live now without globalization. That's whatever is happening in all over the world elsewhere will definitely affect whatever is happening in this within one country. Therefore, there is definitely a need for a concerted effort to get partnership in between various countries to come together for mutual benefits. And now I would like to go into the theoretical aspect that I mentioned just now that I will talk about later. Now, here we are going to look into David Easton's system theory and Jürgen Habermas' public sphere concept. Eventually, they both are theories. Now, David Easton's system theory originated in the field of biology, but later it expanded to be used in behavioral patterns of humans in a given social system, and finally later into political systems and sociology as well. So there has been people who say that, oh, system theory only applies for political systems. No, all right. Actually, it affects into it can be applied into anything. Yeah, anything about human living, and it says that it's a system that involves the idea of groups of objects or elements standing in some characteristic structural relationship to one another and interacting on the basis of certain characteristic processes. The word is processes working together. According to Easton, political system is that system of interaction again, yeah, in any society through which binding or authoritative allocations or decisions are made. So if we look at the diagram on the top here, we're talking about whatever discussed, agreed upon, it becomes input, then you plan, get it done, and therefore what comes out is the output. This is an intended output that comes out here with the environment in its surrounding. And with the political system, if you can replace this box here with politics or even sociology, then social aspects of our life, we have demands. There are so many things happening, poverty, for example, and so on. There are a lot of things that needs to be done. Action needs to be taken to eradicate poverty, and with that comes into the political system. Decisions are made and actions are taken as output that comes out. And are we sure that the outputs that come out that was planned for example, to eradicate poverty. To eradicate poverty, let's say from say 10% to 5%, within how many years has to be decided, and what are the action plans? These are the outputs. And this output also should target who are the targeted recipients of the policy. And over time, there has to be some feedback system that goes back as input so that the original input can be rectified and it can be modified and improved, and the process continues. The same delivery but improvised version can be carried out. So if we look at Jürgen Habermas' theory of communicative action, the whole idea is about public sphere. It allows for people and various parties to come in to provide discussions, provide inputs, provide objections, provide whatever. All right. And along this line, street demonstration is also one of it. Yeah. Street demonstration is also one of it. But as long as it is done or carried out in the proper way, then public sphere is a space for public opinion debates based on issues that arises arises, and with that comes public opinion. Now, these are all examples. For example, the debates in parliament, media, journals, newspapers, print media. Of course, we are not into print media any much more like before. And print media, for example, like books and newspapers, almost extinct already. They're still there, but almost extinct. It takes time because it takes time to read, digest. People need time, free time to read. And when you're not free, then of course you don't read. But electronic media, on the other hand, has got more graphics and easy to disseminate, easy to grasp, and through attractive visuals, it becomes more effective in delivery of the information. And with that comes electronic media, then takes us to social media, then provides an avenue for the society, the public to provide feedback. But there are conditions for public sphere to take place. People must have access to information. There has to be capacity for people in authority to hear the views of the people below. People can make noise, but if the authorities above are very much authoritarian, for example, then whatever information that is provided or given into here will not be listened to. So it becomes not favorable. And the third one is no one is disallowed. The concept is everybody has got a an opportunity to be allowed to be to provide feedback. Public sphere should be equal to all, and the success of public sphere depends on extent of access. If the information cannot or information or the public policy does not go or reach out to the targeted people, it becomes a failure. Degree of autonomy, absence of hierarchy, and quality of participation, rule of law, and all this contributes to the success of public sphere. Now, and again, on top of this, education plays an important role into implementing this, because people who are less educated may not get the information, but those who are educated, lawyers tend to be able to understand what's written between lines, for example. So experts in different aspects of the social life, they can come in together to present their opinions against or for certain public policy. Now, in the past, there used to be spectator politics, as they call it, but where they leave everything to the politics or the politicians, and whereas only a very few discuss and not much debates in the past. It is not something that furthers intellectual discussion. But of late, we notice that with the social media being a very important player in disseminating information, it's also collects feedbacks from the people on those kind of whatever being looked into. Habermas brought forward, therefore, the idea of the complicated nature of the media-driven democracy and the consumer-driven capitalism. Of course, in the long past, media was almost a one-way delivery in its direction. Remember what was on the newspaper, we read, therefore there's no way we could, almost no way for us to provide the feedback. With the current media, it is different. Once they get the message, and like what I said earlier, what happened in Hong Kong, and also yesterday's outcome of the state election in Sabah, we were able to quickly came up with the, we obtained the information immediately, almost within seconds. And for instance, like in the outcome of the Sabah election, already taught some lessons, sent lessons across, saying that, for example, DAP, a political party, has lost all the seats it stood, and it was a signal saying that the people there already rejected, all right, saying that DAP, you're not doing enough, and therefore we are putting our votes on other parties who might be able to support us, things like that, yeah. And when on the other hand, when media is not controlled by the state, when it's controlled, it's difficult. When it's not controlled, when media is free to do what it wants. Platforms are normally owned by private entities with limitations, but they also have to do things under restriction. Like in Malaysia, you call it free, but they are licensed so that the media can be sort of like controlled, and it should know what their limits are. Focuses on news currently via infotainment and less differentiation between the spheres in the society. Everybody is to be treated equally to solve or to find a solution. For example, the terms let's talk to communicate. This is what's important. The two theories that we have discussed just now are put together in one diagram now. This is Habermas' public sphere. This is the systems theory, and it applies to anything else here, not necessarily in the political system alone. So if you notice here, whatever being discussed and agreed upon, and by various target groups, the stakeholders are brought in, they discuss with the government, which planned it for a certain policy, then it's based on the demands of these target groups, and it goes into the system for implementation, and then comes out as output. But with the Habermas public sphere, and before it is being implemented itself, there's pressure. And after it is implemented also, there could be pressure as feedback, that therefore there will be reviews, as then it goes back as feedback into as input, that function as input that has to be revised, and it continues. It can continue this way, or it can continue into the revised or revisited system that goes into output again. Now, this whole scheme can go on and on and on, keep on improving, and that was what happened what has happened in many policies. In Malaysia's housing policy, similar things have taken place. We will, I'll be using housing in the next lecture in a short while as an indication of this. Now, I talked about the vaccination during the COVID-19. The input was very much not much from the public. It came from external, from WHO. Governments have to react quickly and fast, especially with the Ministry of Health. They quickly came up with the system to implement vaccination and as the outcome. And there was not much of reviews, not much of feedback that goes back in. The whole system also did not allow the people, the recipients of the vaccination to sue the government or sue the whoever it is that provided the vaccinations. All right, so there's not much of feedback. Now, this didn't work so much because it's a pandemic during which time the government had to take a stern and strict decision to protect in the name of the welfare of its citizens. So not much of time was available, and a lot of things that we have learned along the way. Now, therefore, this diagram serves as the combination of systems theory and the public sphere. And lastly, based on the inputs from the public, actions can be taken to either modify the intended action to an ideal setting. Ideal setting is what we plan, all right? Or to alter or amend the originally intended ideal setting into something else due to reality. Remember that we talked about the stockpiling area in Malacca, the project that was supposed to have acquired 66 lots of land. Eventually, that's the ideal setting. But in reality, it was not possible because of that. Land that was originally planned was on higher ground. What's the purpose of you going acquire those land? So eventually, this was amended, and the whole design changed until it became from 66 lots to become 32 lots only. Okay, so I'm going on to move on to the next topic. Do you all want me to continue immediately or you want a break? Ideas, please. Something, attendance taken. Okay, Aisha. Okay, Aisha, I've already answered that. Kahan, does MSI familiarize with strategic social assessment looking at landscape as well? Not really. Yeah, not really on that. Okay. Oh, break please, Mary. Okay, shall we take 5? Time now, 4:52. We have slightly less than 1 hour. We have to end by 5:45. Okay. We start again in about, say, according to my watch, 4:53 now. We start again at 4:58. Okay, short break.